Dr. Vern Howard is with us, and we're coming to you from Colorado, right here. The world is watching, the nation is watching, and Black land matters, Black farmers, Black lives under attack, apparently in El Paso County. And Dr. Vern Howard from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Colorado Holiday Commission, you've been on top of this along with a coalition of community members. Can you give us an update? What is going on with the Mallorys, and what have you gained in terms of further information?
Well, thank you, Brother Jeff, for having us. And what's going on with the Mallorys is they are literally being terrorized in the United States of America, in El Paso County, Colorado. She is a 10-year Marine vet, served in Kuwait, served the country honorably, and actually she said that she felt safer in Baghdad than she has right here in Colorado, in the United States of America. We have found that, and they have evidence and pictures of everything that they're saying is alleged, that they have been terrorized. I mean, living in their own home. When they purchased the home in 2000, they got there and found that the land had generally been a dumping ground for their neighbors, and their neighbors were siphoning the water. They had a conduit running from their property over to the neighbors' properties, where they were able to just siphon the water off of their property. They had electrical conduits as well, where they were siphoning the power off of that land as well. So when the Mallorys took over and they cleaned up the place and they started disconnecting the illegal water lines and the illegal electrical lines and things of that nature, well, the neighbors didn't like the word no. When they were told that they couldn't hunt on their land, that's called poaching, and trespassing. The neighbors didn't like that either. And so basically during the pandemic, they literally grew food, organic turkeys, and fed that community, to make sure that nobody went hungry. And they, I said to Nicole, I said, "You're not supposed to bite the hand that feeds you." She says, "They didn't bite the hand. They took the whole arm." And so they have been literally terrorized. And of course, there's a lot of social media out there and different opinions and things of that nature. When they've called the sheriff's department to investigate, the calls were always returned that this is priority for us and we'll get back with you, and they never get back.
Well, what's interesting is the nation and the world is watching now. There's a whole coalition of activists and organizers and allies and interested individuals who deem this and know this to be totally unacceptable. We know the Mallorys here at Brother Jeff's Cultural Center because they participated with us in feeding the community, so they have traveled from El Paso County down to Denver to participate in a lot of the community outreach work that we've been doing. And so now the community is definitely reciprocating by coming together in the midst of this injustice. We're getting to the bottom of it. Dr. Vern Howard, it's safe to say that, this is being watched at the highest levels. The Colorado Attorney General is familiar with this. Our senators are familiar with this, et cetera. And then also at the forefront of making sure that this does not get swept under the rug, per se, is the Colorado NAACP. And we have Madam President Portia Prescott and, of course, Rashad Younger from the NAACP. I'd like to say welcome. And then also you all traveled also to El Paso County. Were there at the release or the night before Courtney was released. Can you give us an update and welcome Madam President and Rashad?
Thank you, Brother Jeff. And it's been a long time since I've been here, but thank you for having us here we felt it best this would be the place that we would make our statement of what we have experienced. I'm Portia Prescott. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the president of the Rocky Mountain NAACP State Conference. That encompasses Colorado, Montana, and Wyoming. So we cover a lot of farmland, a lot of issues in a lot of rural places. Rashad Younger, he's on the executive committee and executive board, and he is our membership chair, and I'll let him introduce himself. And he is also our press release person. So he's handling a lot, to be so young. But I'm grateful to have our executive board. So, Rashad, you want to introduce yourself?
So Rashad Younger, State Conference membership chair, as well as press secretary for the State Conference. One of the things I just wanted to say is that, happy that Courtney Mallory is out. Unfortunately, with everything that is going on, this shouldn't happen in 2023. We should be in a position where not only black farmers like the Mallorys being able to have access to land and be able to make sure that we have equity in regards to our people, but we need to really get to the conversation of reparations, because they should be in an environment where there is more than one black family that has farmland out there. And the problem is we don't have that. We don't have the economic resources that, the government and as well as these corporations that have taken advantage in regards to what we've done to build this country as black folks, to be able to make sure that we have the economic means to be able to farm land and not just be surrounded by, just one demographic. Caucasian families that are threatening us and saying that we don't have the right to be there. That's ridiculous, and we need to really, unite as black people and start really making sure that we hold our politicians accountable and everyone else accountable, because in regards to politicians, they serve us. And one of the, things that I want to say is, yes, we do have politicians that are in office, and I want to give a shout out to James Rashad Coleman, and I appreciate him taking my call because we were trying to get in touch with the governor. But, just like other communities where they're able to have access to the governor, we should be able to call the governor on his cell phone. It doesn't matter if it's at midnight. And, one of the things that I've been saying this year is that these politicians have to understand that they serve us. And it's not just one demographic, they serve all communities. And we are getting the short end of the stick, and it needs to stop. And it is crazy that this family has to go through the things that they've been going through.
Well, I can tell you that there's a statement from the NAACP. And Madam President, can you give us the statement from your organization? And by the way, I'm hoping that everybody is a member of the NAACP, no matter where you're at, no matter what county you are in, wherever you're watching from. We're encouraging you to become a member of the NAACP and organizations that are fighting and working for the betterment of us collectively, because when situations like this arrive, folks begin to scramble in terms of what are we going to do. Fortunately, here in Colorado, we were able to just reach out to organizations that have taken the lead, and the NAACP is certainly one of those organizations. So this is my opportunity to say, make sure that you become a member, and I'll send it back to Madam President with the statement from the NAACP.
Thank you so much, Brother Jeff. This is the official statement. This has been approved and helped drafted and crafted with the National NAACP. They are looking at a deep dive investigation, and so we're all one NAACP, so please join. The Rocky Mountain NAACP demands a full, fair, and transparent investigation of the allegations of harassment and racial discrimination raised by the Mallorys. Less than 6% of El Paso County is black. Only approximately 1% of ranchers in this country identify as black. In short, the Mallorys are outnumbered and in many ways isolated. We stand by these hard-working landowners and believe that everyone should be allowed to pursue their life's work and earn a living without fear of harassment, intimidation, or discrimination. All members of the community, all members, are entitled to police protection and fair treatment by the police, regardless of race.
Thank you, Madam President. And with that being said, Dr. Howard, your statement on behalf of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Colorado Holiday Commission.
Our statement is real simple. It came from Dr. King himself, that we will not be satisfied until justice flows down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. And that's literally what we want for the Mallorys. I do want to piggyback what Brother Rashad said. When we received the call at 8:30 on Monday morning, President Prescott was the first call I made, and then Dr. Mays. And within 25 minutes, we had 25 boots on the ground, including Senator Hickenlooper, including Senator Bennett. And we have had several meetings, and they have had their staff not only in Denver and DC, but in El Paso County as part of those meetings to make sure that we're watching this. And Rashad is absolutely right. When we called the governor's office, the message we were given was flood his phone lines, flood his email, and Rashad's right. We're able to reach out to our U.S. senators and our House of Representatives via cell phone, because that's how Portia and I were able to do it. And right here, we're unable to reach the governor without going through several different channels, which kind of found that a bit interesting.
I have the governor's cell phone. I'll make that call.
Okay.
But with that being said, I want to say on behalf of our community, collectively, and our allies, and then also those individuals of goodwill, this is an opportunity to, take those Black Lives Matter signs and put them into practice.
Amen.
Because Black Lives Matter and Black Land Matters. President Portia mentioned that less than 1% or 1% of all of the land in this country is under the hands of, Black farmers, Black ranchers, etc. And it's no accident. And I would like to ask you all, in terms of our understanding of attack on Black land, Black lives, etc. First, they de-arm you by giving you a felony.
And that's exactly what they're trying to do right now.
They take your ability to protect yourself with a firearm by giving you felony charges. Now, Courtney Mallory had sent me the warrant letter prior to being arrested, because we've been tracking this story for quite a while. And in that letter, it basically said stalking. Now, if you're looking at what the news coverage we just saw and some of the emails that you received and you all have and the images that we have, it's interesting that the Mallorys would be charged with stalking. However, they're on their own land.
That's right.
Now, the second thing is a charge. This is what I don't know what the charges are, but I know what the warrant was about. The second issue was tampering with a meter. You just explained what was taking place, in terms
that wasn't the case.
In terms of that issue. But then the third issue was it said a misdemeanor under $50.
Right.
Now, if this doesn't tell you that this is an opportunity, and we know the just us system, you have Black folks that get caught up in this system and they start running all of these charges up until you cop to something. And so the goal is to make sure you get a felony. So now you can't protect yourself, because once you get a felony, you can't have rights to your constitutional right to bear arms. And once they take your arms, then they take your land.
That's right.
I mean, am I making this up, or is this plain as day?
No, it's absolutely awful. And this is a sticky situation, because these people this is not Colorado, let's just put it that way. I think the most alarming part of this is that the felony charge, strategically, it's like the county or the sheriffs have decided that this is the steps that they must take to get rid of them. And to have to, I come from a family of farmers, and to not be able to bear arms for either livestock, animals, protecting yourself, protecting your animals, and then the slickery from us all being there, from them having another hearing at 10:30 in the morning for the other neighbor, Teresa. Now Bonnie wants to come in and put protection order, or saying that they were stalking her. So it's like they're even trying to trump it up even more. When we were there, we were asking, and they were being mistruths by the sheriffs, the courts, everyone. I don't want to say lie, because that's a big word, but they knew they knew we would be there, so they mistruthed what court hearings were which and which. And then to know that they added to his charges, And to know that now he has to be back in court on February 14th. The only thing that I can see is that this is a systematic, organized process of them trying to kick them off their land. There's nothing else I can say about it.
Yeah. Well, when you think about that, I want to ask, and I'll go right to you, Rashad, in just a second. But Dr. Howard, you've got some more information, perhaps, around the tampering with a meter.
It wasn't a meter. You know what the utility was that they charged them for? Stealing a trash can. Ironically, if you go out there to their land, there's no trash cans anywhere. There's dumpsters. And those of us, and Portia comes from a rural family as well, those of us that have farms, we burn our rubbish. We recycle our plastic. However, we burn everything else. From the food becomes compost, and everything else we burn. And the Mallorys do the same thing.
Well, it's very interesting. The Mallorys will be here, and if they're not, you can certainly understand the pressure that they're under. I understand, and Candace will give us an update on this in just a moment. It must be beyond stressful, because we know what terrorism is. It's designed to render you emotionally, physically unable to cope with ordinary situations. And so when we think about, what's taking place and how things are taking place, what's going on to make sure that the Mallorys are safe? When we're thinking about the whole safety dynamic, what are your thoughts?
We don't want to go into complete detail. We just want to say that, one, they are safe currently, and we are working with several organizations, including being headed up by the NAACP and several other organizations, to make sure that their land is safe as well.
That's the big issue also, Brother Jeff. The big issue that we're looking at is their land safe? Right now, they have to stay safe. They have to get a criminal attorney. We know criminal attorneys are expensive. We know NAACP, we want to take on the bear of making sure they retain somebody today financially, if that's whatever it is that they need. But at the same time, who's protecting their land while they're going through this? And who's, now who's to say the sheriffs, they won't come out to their land. They can say their land could be vandalized as right now as we were speaking. They had a hand come out, some help come out yesterday, and I believe that neighbor called the police on that person. So upon her instruction, I want to go out and help to feed the cows and feed the animals, because you can't have someone protecting your land. You can't have a family member come to your land and get arrested for coming to help you in your time where you have to stay off your land to stay safe for your life. And this is a situation that could have been de-escalated by El Paso County a long time ago. You know that there was discrepancies and there were certain situations between these two people. And then they're going to tell us on the Zoom that we were on that they reached out to community leaders. Now, what community leaders? Did you get a call from anybody from El Paso County?
I did.
Did anybody, Candace, anybody get a call from El Paso County? They put a press release to put a little statement out that they gave a name of someone who's in charge of something in Colorado Springs, and I'll have to get that name when I'm not on camera. But our community exists. Our legislators know our community exists. And to me, to cover their backs by saying we reached out to community leaders, they know we will come and protect their land. They know we as a community will come down there and make sure that there are people 24 hours. If it need be, we can tent. We know how to tent. I'm Black Girls Hike. We know how to pitch tents and sleep if we need to sleep in a tent to make sure that they're safe if they don't want us in certain areas. But I think that's the problem right now. They have tried to create a situation where they are completely isolated. You can't even roll down there now and maybe not get arrested from the neighbor.
Well, I want to ask Rashad if you can chime in, and then I'm going to ask that Rashad switch positions with Candace, because I want to hear what's going on from the organizational standpoint. I know the NAACP is taking the lead in terms of the collective organizing, because I know a lot of folks are doing a lot of different things, and everyone is working together. And I'm telling you, if you would like to participate in following, doing something, participating in the legal defense fund, because we know what happens. And this is the reason individuals find ourselves overrepresented in the criminal justice system, is because here, if it's an attempt to take the land, Now you've got to put your land up so that either you can get bailed out, bonded out, and then raise money to defend yourself, which puts you back in that perpetual starting over piece. And when folks are talking about Black History Month and Black ownership and equity, we're showing you how equity can be undermined. And so now you've got legal issues that will be mounting. I want to just know, how do we reach out to the NAACP? Is there a legal defense fund? How do folks make contributions if, in fact, they would like to do that?
Yeah, so you guys can actually reach out to us via our website.
www.rmnaacp.org. We do have a legal redress. We have a legal team. We have a legal fund. We will be very transparent. I understand how this stuff gets tricky, but we are very transparent about our finances. You come to a meeting for the state conference. We partner and we're very close to the national office. So if you go to www.r as in Robert, M as in Mary, NAACP.org, you'll also see the list of all the other branches. So if you're in Colorado Springs, Pueblo, wherever you are in the state, you will see where you can also join and where you can join that particular branch. We have a state conference legal fund. You can just click the donate button, any amount, $5, $10, because these attorneys are going to cost a lot of money. Yeah. And whatever we need to do, we're prepared to do. This is a long haul. We know we have other lawsuits going on, and we're helping even Mississippi in a current lawsuit. So we know we're here for the long haul. We're not here for, right now while the cameras are hot. Basically, anytime you get in the situation that they're in, they could be dealing with these criminal charges for over a year. So we're here for that.
And just to kind of let the community know, so, we all have been working to try to find the best representation in regards to attorneys to be able to make sure that the family gets that. But one of the things I wanted to state, and we kind of stated it before, is the economic piece in regards to this, right? This family is originally from Houston. Courtney as well as Nicole have served in our armed forces to be able to make sure that they protect the nation. They bought this property at a discount and, have been working this land. And now all of a sudden you have people that are upset that a Black family is trying to, one, economically support themselves and also be able to make sure that our community has good food, good, healthy food, and, and also teach our community. There's been kids that have came from the inner city that have gone up there to work with the Mallorys, as well as them being able to make sure, even with Brother Jeff, that food is coming down to our communities. But now we're in a situation where, the system is not working for us. And we've seen this over and over again, whether it's been Black Wall Street, Deerfield, Rosewood, all these different places that we've constantly gone through this, where they have intimidated us, they've tore us down in regards to trying to build economic means. And this family is seeing it in 2023. They, we're going to support them where we can in regards to the economic means of getting an attorney, but it is ridiculous.
I also want to give a shout out to Deborah Richardson from ACLU, and Mari Newman is aware. So we have a lot of high power people who are aware. ACLU is in this fight with us. We've got to get them past the criminal side of this, but ACLU and Deborah Richardson from ACLU of Colorado are going to be helping lead some of this legal aspect as well. So I want to make sure I shout out ACLU of Colorado.
Well, I can tell you we're staying on top of this as a community and just as individuals who are interested in justice and getting to the bottom of these different dynamics. We do know that Colorado, and I know that there are individuals who like to talk about how liberal this place is, but this was one of the leading states as it relates to Ku Klux Klan membership and participation. And you don't have to go too far to figure out, exactly what that means. So with that being said, Vern, I would like to ask you, if we see gentrification and we see folks that are running around grabbing grandma's house, I think we're talking about 1,000 or 640 acres of land. It's not a big stretch to say that someone will be coming after or interested in that land. What is the value and what is your interpretation as it relates to land ownership?
So first of all, let's talk about the land. I mentioned earlier how folks were siphoning water off the land and how they were siphoning the utilities as well. Brother Jeff, if you go out there and you look at their neighbors. Their neighbors have these big cisterns where they have to pipe in water, bring in water, ship in water, buy water. Whereas the Mallorys have a stream and they have a well. So they have their own water source. And that makes their land even more valuable because they don't have to pipe in water. They don't have to ship in water. They have their own water source. And then the other piece of that is then you take not only the water rights and then you look at the grazing, how wonderful that land is to graze off of for their livestock. And then you take into consideration they're able to grow fresh fruits and vegetables. And that's how they've been feeding the community. And if I may, one of the things that the Mallorys did ask, they asked us this the other night to make sure that people do continue to purchase food from them by simply going to Freedom Acres, the number 1, at gmail.com. That's Freedom, plural, Acres, Freedom, singular, Acres, plural, the number 1, at gmail.com.
Well, I could tell you, if you would like to participate in organizing or being in touch with those who are directly in touch with the Mallory family, contact the NAACP, Portia Prescott, Rashad Younger, etc. I know there's a lot of GoFundMe accounts out there and a lot of folks that are manipulating this particular dynamic. And so that's why we are directing individuals through the NAACP under the partnership and relationship with the Mallory family. What I would like to do just quickly before we wrap up, we know about these sundown towns. And the great Leanne Wheeler, who is a military veteran, talks about how when she was stationed here as late as the 80s, maybe even the 90s, I'm not sure. She was told, and those black folks who are in the military were told certain places that you will not be perhaps safe in El Paso County. So they were giving places where they were not to be, not simply because they are veterans and they're defending the country, but because they're black. This is unheard of in terms of our inability, or I won't say some's inability to get beyond their racial hatred, whatever that means. And I want to ask Candace, what is your advice as it relates to organizing? Because if you think folks are going to show up and start talking about we're raising money on behalf of the Mallorys, I'm pretty sure everyone with a bullhorn is about to show up from parts unknown representing this dynamic, which oftentimes is not about the dynamic we are talking about, but it's latching on to a dynamic. Candace, what is it that you have picked up, and what is it that we should know and perhaps even marching orders?
Ooh, that's a lot. That was a very loaded question. So where to begin?
Right.
So when you're thinking about organizing, looking at who is on the playing field is important. I have been in touch with a lot of the activist community. We have some things going on in the background to help to identify who these organizations and activists are that are attempting to come into our state. There's also a counter group that is working on Reddit that has white nationalists, white supremacists that are ready to gear. I have been adamant around the idea that a rally is not what is necessary at this moment. We need to organize in a much more efficient and precise way. We do not have the bodies to cover what is needed currently. And so as that begins to be established, that gives us more width and breadth to be able to do rallies and organize protests. Right now, safety must be paramount for the Mallorys. Mm-hmm. If you're worried about a camera, you should probably get your ass out the way, because people are literally dying. And this is not the time to showboat, to make a parade, to start something and then walk away. We often see this. Fires are lit and then no one is in the room to protect the people who are actually at risk. This is the history of our lives. So when people want to organize and bring attention to something, I think one of the most important keys and ingredients is you do nothing for us without us. And if the Mallorys are not talking to you, if you're not talking with Dr. Vern Howard, if you are not talking with Portia Prescott, if you are not in connection with the people who are in connection with the people, you should probably sit down, because you are superseding the people who are being directly impacted. I think there's so much to be said. You could look over the last 3 years of Colorado movement and overstand that there has been COINTELPRO since the beginning of time. We are repeating history. And if we are not standing together in a way that makes sense, we will be defeated before we even get into the war, and the war has already begun. As far as efforts that are happening right now, we are organizing in the background to have volunteers go out. We have Black women with conceal and carry permits that are stepping forward, the Urban League, National Action Network, NARAB, NAACP. There are so many organizations that are required to be in the room. And as this deepens and we get more and more details, it will require us to be organized so that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. We can't go into this blindly as we have before and think all gas, no brakes. We must be intelligent and informed. Colorado Springs is one of the meccas of white supremacy in the state of Colorado, just under Springfield, Colorado, which borders Oklahoma. And so if you look back historically, they're not new to this, they're true to this. Mm-hmm. It is in their DNA. They have been doing this. I started getting calls from other farmers after Mr. Mallory was arrested, other Black and brown farmers. And they were adamant to tell me, Ms. Candace, this is not new. We have been under this guise for decades. They will die. This county has perfected everything that we are seeing, and the longevity in this county of someone who owns property, let alone has water rights, that's gold. That's pure gold. Now, from the perspectives of help, we're going to need volunteers. We're going to need people to be ready and able at the drop of a dime. But now is not that moment where we need you to go occupy the land right now. We've got some ingredients and some really important things that we must understand before we bring our community there and endanger their lives as well. Mm-hmm. As this continues to escalate to the national level, there are voices and faces in the room that you would be surprised to see, I'm sure. And it continues to escalate. There are so many layers of federal violation. It is unbelievable. And so I think what is required is, again, making sure that each and every one of us is in this space together and working as a unit and not working against one another. So it is critical, no matter what our relationships are within our community, that we lay those things down right now. There is a Black woman and a Black man who are subject to death if we do not unify. So my marching order, Brother Jeff, would be everyone sit and wait for direction. Do not go out and do things of your own accord. We have people working on security. We have people coming out to work on providing ranch hands and assistance. Black women are out of their seat and they are ready to go. I know that the veterans are being turned on. Leon Wheeler, Lacey McDonald, they are in the room. They are working day and night to figure out how do we support this family appropriately. Security and safety are the first things that we must think about. And that is one of the most important parts. Sometimes we do things and we think that that is helpful, and in reality, we are creating a situation that becomes more dangerous. So my first suggestion, get a hold of the NAACP. Make sure that you have the correct marching orders. We do not need some rogue individual out here running around doing things that are not led by the Mallorys. That is one of the most important parts. We have groups that are attempting to infringe on our state, set a fire, and leave the Mallorys there to burn. As a community, we must get together and we must stronghold. That is not acceptable within our community.
Well, I can tell you, thank you so much, Candace. And then also, Rashad, can you give that information again, how to contact the NAACP?
So one thing I did want to say, too, is that the Mallorys are asking everyone to come out on February 17th to the Capitol.
But we're trying to shut that down. We're concerned because of February 14th.
Okay, so I apologize. We actually changed that. We shut that down in reverse.
We haven't changed it. It's just they have a court date February 14th.
There's a court date.
There's a court date now, and that was planned before the court date. So the concern is we don't know what's going to happen at that court date, if there's something that comes after that. If, I shudder. It's going to totally be up to the Mallorys, but I'm concerned, and I will leave it up to the legal in the Mallorys once they secure who they want to work with as a criminal attorney, because the El Paso County has been pulling so many fast ones. You don't know what they're going to try and have ready for him on February 14th if they're going to try and incarcerate him even more. And I just have to be real with that. And I think, and I'm one thing that's taught me where the holes are, and I thank Candace for being here, because we have a lot of strong women in this state. But the one thing I love about NAACP, we have a national organization behind us. So we have a whole long row of attorneys and finances and support. And so I'm making sure that, between Rashad, between myself, between President Stevens in Colorado Springs, she's had to bear a lot of this load. President Angela Stevens in Colorado Springs has been by herself a lot. We now have Denver NARAB, the real estates, Milford, Tyrone Adams, DMAR, because it's a collective. When someone now has an issue in the state of Colorado, you should know by now where you need to go. We don't have to work in our own silos. We all can collectively do what we do. What I like about the NAACP, we're very transparent, we're a national organization, and we come with national money. So I just want to be clear, I'm concerned with Candace, because what I have seen personally, y'all know me, I don't trust February 14th to be the only day that they're going to try and pull a fast one.
So we'll stay in contact. We'll stay in touch. And thank you, Madam President. Rashad, final words.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing, and just to kind of piggyback off of what Candace Bailey said. Do not show up. I mean, we were at the jail the other night, and people were just showing up that we don't even know. And there was a Caucasian male that showed up, and we're worried about their safety. So what I'm saying is, stay put, so that way we know exactly what is going on, and we're keeping this family safe. We're keeping their land safe. So I know a lot of people are up in arms in regards to being able to make sure that this family is protected. Reach out to us. We'll make sure that we facilitate things and coordinate on a collective front. So
perhaps you will be seeing the Mallorys a little later. Today, of course, there's so many moving parts that are happening right now, but we'll definitely keep you updated on this platform, and others will be doing the same thing. Candace, just your final words and your message to the Mallorys. Message to the Mallorys.
Message to the Mallorys. You are not alone. For several of us who have been working in the background, it is important that we stay anonymous, because if you put my name in an environment, you have a new problem on your hands. So the background work that needs to be done is being handled exponentially. We have a great team behind us. They're doing investigation, they're gathering intel, they are collecting people. We are working at the national level and international level to secure funding so that their agriculture, farming, and ranching is not destroyed. If they have nothing to go back to, we have lost the war already. If we continue to allow this to happen, we're not doing what we believe we're doing. I think my final thoughts are, community, do something you've never done before. Show up in service rather than servitude to yourself. Often what I see is one individual running to the front of the pack and wants the camera and has no information, is completely ignorant, and is endangering the lives of the very people they claim to be protecting. Leadership does not always come from the front. You better get in the back too.
Wow. Madam President, message or words to the Mallorys?
I wish we could have fixed this so much earlier. I know that now as a community, we need to make sure that all of us, which we don't like, law enforcement sometimes, but when we got down to El Paso County, we had no relationships, no DA, no nothing. And it was very frustrating to have to go through our senators to get any type of information or any type of anything. So I do want to say the Mallorys have a community that's unified. I want to echo exactly what Candace said. It's time for us to come together. And I do want to stress, and I'm glad you have the governor's phone number, because the governor needs to be a little bit more engaged. And Andreas, hi, I hope you're watching this from his office. He hired someone that's a great person, but we need to start kind of all knowing exactly how to act. The most important thing, we want the Mallorys to be safe, and they've got a road ahead because of the February 14th court date. And we all really need to be prepared to help them legally, because, the county has unimaginable amount of money that they've been investing in getting rid of them. So I think we just have to sit tight, and I would ask everyone to write your council people in Colorado Springs. Make sure everyone knows. I mean, we know everyone here in Denver, but right now, some of the incidents happening in El Paso County, I'm going to ask my community, please make sure you know who the Colorado Springs City Council people are, and we begin to have the real discussion of more transparency from the El Paso County Sheriff Department.
Wow. That being said, thank you both. And Dr. Howard, your message to the Mallorys, and for those who are watching, everyone here on this platform is in touch with the Mallorys. And so, we're not talking about, and as a matter of fact, you will see them perhaps later today. They're speaking on behalf of and with the Mallorys. But Vern, what is your message to the Mallorys?
Basically the same as Candace and the Madam President had mentioned. We have your back. We have your back, and it reminds me something that Candace kind of alluded to. I've said, Brother Jeff, you heard me say it before, when it's all said and done, there's always more said than there is done. And we have a lot of folks that are stepping up now, talking about how they want to help and how they want to do A, B, C, and D. And Dr. King said, you know what? Run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. However, it is time for us to let justice ring and let freedom ring. It's ironic that the name of their ranch is Freedom, Freedom Acres, and yet and still they're being held captive by El Paso County. El Paso County, and I am going to say this: El Paso County was a sunset town. Got to remember that. And you got to remember, do your research, it is still a Klan and a white supremacist stronghold. So we need all the hands we can get to make this happen. And to the Mallorys, we have you. We got you. And not only is the world watching, but we're not going to falter. We're not going to faint. We're not going to grow weak and weary. We are going to build our community, and our community is going to help you build your farm and get you the justice that you deserve.
Wow. Speaking of justice, I want to say thank you. We're talking about land, lives, etc. Black lives matter. Black land matters. And if you believe that, this is a time to just know that, we're talking about 1,000 acres of land, 640 acres of land. And so whatever it is that you would like to do it in unity, and this is not an opportunity to fight each other. I have never seen so many individuals. It's like we're standing up for a fight, but before we could fight, we got to fight each other.
Yeah.
And we will fight each other tooth and nail. And then the fight that you thought you were signing up to have is never had, because you're bludgeoned to death based on the fight you had with yourselves.
Brother Jeff, usually I give you a little history whenever I come to the show. So let's talk about the Montgomery bus boycott. Let's talk about when Dr. King first started. Let's talk about how that's exactly what happened, that there was a fight to who would lead that particular struggle. And it just so happens, as the dust settled, Dr. King was new to the community and not beholden to anyone.
Well, that's the word. And speaking of land, we're going to sign up. Thank you all. Thank you. My hat's off to everybody that's just in the fight. And with that being said,
www.rmnacp
Say that. Say it.
Please go to www.rmnaacp.org and join. $30 to join. Find a branch. We've got them all across the state of Colorado. But please, we need bodies, members, and that way you can really stay in the loop. You'll stay in the loop from your presidents, your secretaries, so the community can stay in the loop because we are all talking as a unit at NAACP across the state.
Well, I can tell you when we come back in just about 5 minutes, we're going to sign off and coming back with Councilwoman Candy C. DeBaca, etc. And we're going to continue the conversation about land. It's interesting. We're going to talk about a conservation easement.
Ooh.
But we'll talk about it because
land gets heated. Woo, that's what's happening in El Paso. When you talk about land, it gets heated.
When you start talking about land, it gets heated. And so with that being said, if you go down swinging, you just might score a knockout. Rumble, young man, women in community. Rumble. Mallory's, we got your back. And everybody else who's struggling, don't hide, don't cower, don't duck. Just stand right up and we'll stand right with you. How about that?
I like that.